Hello, dear friends. I am Kara. My pronouns are she and her. Currently zooming in to you, wherever you are, from the traditional territory of the Wiwe Kai, colonially known as Quadra Island. The name Quadra comes from a Spanish colonizer. He named it after himself when he came here in the 1700s. This land has been stewarded by the Wiwe Kai for, my understanding is, a couple hundred years. Prior to that, it was actually the Coast Salish. They do have a nation here with about 1,200 registered members, and they do have several pieces of land reserved. However, they are not under treaty of any kind. They don't have any agreements with the so-called Canadian government, and this land is unceded. Really, all the land is stolen though, so I just want to start there. So this is the fourth time that I've attempted to bring together a group of people to gather around this idea of the changing season and mixing my interest in being a land-based practitioner, being a person who dances and loves movement of the body, and a person who is studying astrology. With winter solstice moving together, then I did a spring equinox, and then we did a summer solstice, and now here we are with fall equinox. First of all, I am a body on a body of land. My blood is the river. My hair is the grass. My spine is the tree. My fingers are the ferns. What if my body was actually the way that I see nature, the way that I see the land? And truthfully, we come from the land. We are part of it. We are part of nature. The idea that systems of oppression, white supremacy, anti-black racism, capitalism, patriarchy, ableism, ageism, all of these things have stripped us of that knowing and that knowledge. Why did I study dance all these years? What use is my knowledge of the body and my belief in the body and my felt experience of the body? What use is that to the revolution? What use is that to abolition? What use is that to liberation? What use is that to anti-oppression work in general? And I think there's a lot of answers to that. There's a lot of people who are working with dance in different ways. What I'm finding right now, just based on where I'm at and my life and all of that, is this exploration of how is my body a part of this land? How is my body connected to the natural rhythms of the seasons? Because if I believe that my body has been ripped away from this natural cycle of being and this natural connection of being, then I also have to believe that as I come closer to it, I can come into some greater connection with liberation, with freedom. I can taste freedom. I can perhaps it's something about becoming more attuned. If I can become more attuned to nature's rhythms, then perhaps I can be given more strength when it's needed. Maybe I can tap into intuition better and be more attuned to who I need to spend time with and who I need to not spend time with. Perhaps I can make decisions in a more aligned way. Maybe it's just comfort. I think that's the thing too, is even if it's just comfort, even if it's just comforting and joyful to practice something that is sort of we're told is wrong, even if it's just comforting to do that and joyful to do that, then I think that's enough. That's enough for, it's enough just to resist and feel joy. And I've been excited about this like term that I've been using called body spells. Because I don't know, like, what is it when we move our body in a way that is abstract or counter to the normative ways that society wants us to move? What does it feel like when we allow our body to just move how it wants to move? And what is a spell other than an initiating of something, a putting out into the world, I'm going to do this? How could a body moving how it wants to not have a spell effect? I'm purposely filming outside because it is such a beautiful place that I'm in, and it's a new place. It's a new place for my family and I to be. We're new to this area. A lot of privilege. I really feel I need to share it with people. I don't know how to do that yet, and I'm hoping that more will come on how I can do that. Right now, just being in the environment and being able to share it with others through video, and to just, you know, have you taste a little bit of the landscape, have you hear the sounds as I'm in it, and hopefully, you know, part of this whole video, this whole package is to inspire you to do your own practices. So go to the places where you feel a connection. Go to the places where you feel this deep reverence for the land, and to cultivate that in your everyday life, as you know, small, however small that may feel or seem. This exploration also came from a place of no longer wanting to be a part of the Christian, patriarchal, capitalist, colonial celebrations of the seasons. So things like so-called Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. Not wanting to be a part of those things, but recognizing that there's a void and that there is like an actual need that I have, and perhaps that other humans have, to mark the seasons. And fall equinox, an equinox is when is when we have equal light and equal dark. So there's a balance or an equity that's happening between light and dark at the fall and at the spring. At the beginning of fall, what are we doing? Well, we're preparing to reap the harvest. We've been harvesting from the land. We've been, you know, having our peaches and our blueberries and whatever the heck else in the Western world. But there's going to be more. There's going to be more of a time of like really, really harvesting so that we can make it through like the coldness of winter. And things like summer is a time where everything's bursting with energy, and then fall is a time where we start, the fall equinox is where this process begins of starting to come inward and starting to slow down. There's like definitely, like, you know, if people are going back to school in September, there's like an inwardness, So there's definitely something to be said for like the rhythm of the seasons. I've been very interested in this, in like quote unquote spiritual stuff for a long time, but something that has always really bugged me about it has been the lack of understanding of anti-oppression and the lack of understanding of cultural appropriation. And like, let's be real, we've all been invited to like the winter solstice gatherings at like the local hippie place, and like, you know, if you're a person who doesn't want to see white people with locks in their hair, like, don't go to that. And so I will also just give a little bit of a lineage acknowledgement for myself, which is that I am a mixed Filipinx person. My mother is born and raised in what is colonially known as the Philippines, specifically from Zamboanga, which is in the south, but we are by blood more from the north. Traced my lineage back to my great grandfather, who was from mainland China and immigrated to the Philippines, and the rest of that side of the family is all indigenous Filipino blood, although not indigenous in culture or practice, which is common for most Filipinos. But my mother's family speaks Chabacano, which is a Spanish Creole that about 300,000 people speak, mostly in Zamboanga. My father's side of the family is mostly Polish, Eastern European, and they took on German citizenship before the Second World War. They had that opportunity to become German citizens, and they took it because they felt it would be safer. And my grandfather, my Opa, did fight for the Germans, was injured in a battle with Russians, and was imprisoned in Oklahoma in a German POW camp. I tell these stories, I think it's so important that learn our stories. We tell our stories, we repeat our stories, that we tell them to others. This way of telling you where I come from so that you can know me, and so that you can know me in this way that is beyond just my generation, that it precedes me, I think is really important. I think it's connected to this idea of honoring the seasons, the land, because the land, it holds our memories, I feel. It holds our stories. Also guards against the cultural appropriation. It helps me to come forward to you with transparency of who I am. And where my knowledge comes from is mostly Western colonial dance traditions, ballet, modern, contemporary, Martha Graham, Enrico Cicchetti, the Royal Academy of Dancing in the United Kingdom. I trained at some of the schools in Canada, Royal Winnipeg Ballet School, L'École Supérieure Contemporaine in Montreal, Arts Umbrella in Vancouver. I then went to a school called the Ailey School in New York City, which the Ailey company was the very first African-American, all African-American modern dance company. Alvin Ailey was a black man, and to this day most of the company is black, and those that aren't are very, very thoroughly trained in their style of dancing, still from a like a classical modern dance lens, not from a street dance lens. For a lot of my knowledge later, dance-wise, has been like through theater, mask and clown and voice. And even later, like more somatic ways of understanding movement, Pilates, yoga, ecstatic dance, all the hippie dance, all that shit. And in the last couple of years, I've been studying Western astrology in the Hellenistic tradition. That dates back to ancient Mesopotamia. There is also astrology that is more from India. It's called Vedic astrology, and I personally chose Western astrology, Hellenistic astrology, because I felt as a non-South Asian, non-Indian person, I just felt it wouldn't be right for me to study Vedic astrology. So I think that's actually going to be my first offering, or my first prompt or suggestion for you for this fall equinox. I'm filming this on the 16th of September, which is the day before a full moon and lunar eclipse in Pisces. In a full moon, we're supposed to let go of something, but a lunar eclipse is going to play out over the next 6 months. So we know that over the next 6 months, there's something, like from now until March, until the spring solstice, there's something that we're supposed to be letting go, and something that's quite deep. Generationally, it's not just an eclipse is going to activate what we call the lunar nodes in the birth chart or in the chart of the sky. Right now they're in Aries and Libra, and they're soon going to be moving into Pisces and Virgo. So this full moon is activating a bit of that newer lunar node, the Pisces-Virgo axis. The beginning of a season is a good time to start something, because we are right next to this eclipse that's happening on the 17th, and then we're moving into the fall equinox, which is on Sunday, the 22nd, in the early morning. So we're starting this process of something that we're letting go over the next 6 months. And I think that ties in really nicely with the fact that fall is sort of a descending quality. It's sort of a receptive quality, and in a going inward quality, as opposed to spring and summer, which is more of this ascending quality. So I want to prompt you to think about, what is your connection to land, and what is your connection to your body? What is your story of how your body became to be on the, there's the land in general, and we can talk about the land as an entity and as a thing that we're not even a thing, but like a being, a living being that we're in relationship to. We can also talk about the actual literal land that we are on. If we know these stories, it's important to retell them, to review them for ourselves, because I think there are lessons in these stories. Every time I tell these stories about my family, something new kind of gets revealed, like a little peel comes off, and I identify a little bit more. And if you're a person who believes also in ancestors, and I do, I speak to my ancestors, I chat with them. There is something about us fulfilling what our ancestors couldn't. I think it's important. I think it really honors them, and it honors the journey that they've been on and that we've been on. Take some time to retell, review, revisit a story, multiple stories of how your body came to be on this land in particular. You can go back as far as you want, wherever. And I also encourage you too that most of us don't have a family, tree with every single story written out. Let's just say that right there. And some people more than others, right? Really depending. I think it's a huge privilege to have that unbroken lineage of stories in our family. I encourage people to not just look at their blood relations, but to look at also the cultural groups that they know that they're a part of. If that's not available, like, just widen your search. And I really feel that there is a line, right? Like, I'm not asking you to like go out and like claim a culture that is not your own, or to go out and make money from something that is not your own, or to go out and like claim rights or anything like that. It's about really just going inward and like touching that idea. Like, I'm just gonna say, like, for myself, for example, it's like, I don't have the privilege of being back in the Philippines. So I do just connect with any Filipinos out here that I possibly can. And now it's getting a little bit more like, okay, I really connect with Filipinos that are like abolitionists or practicing anti-oppression, right? And Chavacano is the language that my parents speak, or that my mom speaks, but like Tagalog is the language that most Filipinos understand. So it just makes more sense for me to learn Tagalog, if that makes sense. Like, and some of us do not have the privilege of being directly connected to our like indigenous ancestors and our indigeneity. And I'm gonna say too, like for white folks, that's huge, because white folks are so far disconnected from their indigeneity. Like, that happened for y'all like 1,000 years ago. Like, let's be honest. That was like, So, like, for me, for example, I know my family was Polish. I know they spoke Polish. I know that in our ancestry test, a lot of it goes directly back to the village where we know where our family had a farm at one point. And we don't know a lot more than that. But like, if I'm sort of connecting to like land-based practices and what we call witchcraft, like, I did a little bit of research on like when were the witch trials in Poland, and like, or in that area, which was actually also called East Prussia, and I was able to just sort of connect to that, like, that sense of like that colonialism that happened, and that patriarchal violence that happened against people who I feel are in my lineage at some point. Like, at some point, there were people in my lineage who probably had knowledge of the land and were murdered for that.